How's it going, everyone? Mike here. Just came back from checking out the Chainsaw Man Reze arc. Just want to say, kind of peak, and nah, not even just kind of. It was peak, man. From the music, bro. Like that was one of the first few things that I had like peeped, especially how in the beginning of the movie they used the music almost as though it was like an anime opening, like how it's done traditionally in a show. Just seeing that caught my eye. But another thing that caught my eye as I watched the movie was also the animation. How things were so fluid, like how I'm just moving around right here. Like let's say I'm moving, I'm just in my like camera or whatever. Like they like express every like ounce of that type of movement frame by frame. It the whole movie, the entire movie. And it brought me back to just the quality of, like, for example, for the opening of Chainsaw Man, where like they're in the movie theater, they're moving around, different parts of that where it's like so expressive. The whole movie was like that. That's one thing that caught my eye, dude. And then another thing I just want to talk about is the themes in the movie, as well as the parallel parts of the movie, especially when you open up with the beginning of the movie that resembled the beginning of season 1 of Chainsaw Man. I believe it had a similar startup where Denji is in like this alley. He's in this like alley, and there's this door, and he's told not to go to the door this time in the movie. And granted, my memory of the first season of Chainsaw Man, well, the only season of Chainsaw Man, I watched it, last time I watched it was back when it first came out, and and that was also back when I wasn't really doing reactions on this channel, where we weren't really doing content on this channel, so I think I watched reactions of that later on that year of the show. So my memory might be a bit iffy, but parallels of that from that first episode of season 1 and then seeing that in the beginning of the movie I was like, wait, hold up, is that a callback? And they did so many callbacks from Reze, especially in the beginning of the movie, where she was going alleyway to alleyway, from the cafe, going to different places after Denji was over at the telephone booth, and she was like, oh hey, they had their whole interaction. And I mean, prior to that, we were talking about parallels. Let's go into Makima Reze. So in this movie, we're going into who's the better like pick, Makima or Reze. Denji, he's like so dead set on Makima, right? And we saw, okay, how he had that day with Makima, and how things were just so, it was just like, it's just what she wants to do, whatever, and then the slightest ounces of like affection or whatever has Denji head over heels, right? And we know for him, he's satisfied with all this different stuff because he doesn't understand how things are supposed to be. Because growing up, he didn't have really anything. So any fragments of what it comes close to a bare minimum of like life, he's like, this is paradise. And he kind of talked about his feelings towards just his lifestyle with Reze later on in the movie. But in the movie, we saw him in Makima doing all the movie dates and all that stuff. And towards the last movie, it was a movie that Makima had said that it's something that is complicated to explain, or at least that's what people have said about the movie that they're about to go into. Watching the movie, it was a veteran, and it's believed that it was his significant other that was over at a farm. They hugged each other, no words said. They were bawling their eyes out because of just like the visual symbolisms of that. And it's crazy because little do we know that's parallel, that's supposed to be foreshadowing and a parallel to how they expect us to be later on in the movie. And there's bits and pieces where it's just like, nah, I'm like, nah, I can see that's where we have a different version of that between Reze and Denji, where it's like, oh shoot, so that's what y'all were going for. That's what y'all were going for. Just seeing the parallels in this movie was just so cool, and there was so much more. And I'm just trying to like follow in the right correct orders. And then later on, Denji, obviously meets up with Reze. Reze shows up in a telephone booth and with him, and he does like this magic trick with like a flower, because again, after the the movie day with Makima, Denji asked Makima, "Do you think I have a heart?" And she did like, hey, she's just doing whatever works in their playbook. She touched where like his, what's it called, his, what do you call it? Where you read the chainsaw. Like she touched a part of his chest, but like, you do, and just walked off. And then later on, Denji head over heels, had the flower, ate the flower because he thought that's what he was supposed to do. Everyone was like were dumbfounded seeing that's how he was. How he decided to get the flower, because he went over to this like charity place that's supposed to be like a charity for going up against devils or whatever, and meets up with Rize. He has the flower, and she's like, oh, okay. So in the movie, you started to see, like, after his running with Makima, seeing the scenes between Denji and Rize, they're so much of a better fit together, because we saw how he was just like, and it went from movie to movie, how he had different descriptions of like, she's not expressing any emotion either. She cute though. She, you know what I mean? He kept doing that over and over and over. But with Rize, it was like fun. Like, he actually enjoyed himself, where it was like, yeah, because we know that with Makima, she more so just wants to change. Like, she cares about Denji because the chainsaw, not really Denji, but Rize, or at least from what we first saw, it seemed like Rize felt that way towards Denji, but it was for the chainsaw though. It was for the chainsaw. But I think there were inklings, especially later on towards the end of the movie, where we got to see no, he she definitely cared for Denji, and we got to see that, especially more so within action of what she does, which towards the end of the movie is like, dang, bro. But back to like, who likes Denji for Denji, who likes Denji for Chainsaw Man, right? And Denji said something when they fought each other, because Rize, her ulterior motive started to show, because it was a moment that was in the movie where basically Rize was like saying what I was saying about all these experiences that you had within this life of yours. It's like bare minimum. You haven't gone to school. You haven't been able to do basically really anything. Really, you're just like cool for this person. And Rize was talking to Ninja like, why not run away with us? Like, why not? But they didn't want to join, and Rize was like, well, don't want to get with the program, gotta take you out. But and then the shark dude, oh yeah, the shark dude, oh my gosh, the shark dude in this movie with him and Denji, bro, like at first he was on some high energy. But like later on in the movie, Denji and the shark, they started to really reciprocate that. But they were starting to like reciprocate that. Especially towards the battle when they were fighting Rize and then the Typhoon Devil. It was, their energy was on 10, bro. I was like, yo, let's freaking go, man. But, aside from just me just explaining, like, what happened in the movie, or as far as, like, a spoiler review, just how I viewed different things, just seeing the buildup of how we got from point A to point B, it was crazy. And I'm really just explaining different parts of the movie just to talk about how different scenes later on, after what I just explained, was like a reflection of that. Because later on in the movie, obviously Rize like, are you in with the program? All right, I'm a fight. And then we know who the main characters are going to win. You know what I mean? We take care of business, but the entire just sequence of like, from the music, the scores, and the animation, oh my gosh, bro. Like, in the movie, if anyone saw me, anyone that was sitting in the same row as me in the auditorium, if y'all were watching, like, just me reacting, I was like, I was trying to contain myself not to yell up in there, just how like well expressed the animation was, and especially when we get into the action scenes. Like, from when they first ran away from Rize, they went to a headquarters, and she tried to play the same game that she did with Denji to some of the people there. I think it was one of Aki's friends. What was his name? Mozo. I forgot the first letter of his name, but I feel like it was like, wasn't it like Nozo or something like that? He was actually kind of cool, and we got to see other devil hunters use the like using those abilities. I was like, yo, okay, so Aki's not the only one. That's dope. And yeah, it was cool seeing them, but only for the short amount of time, because they got side character treatment. this yeeted out of the story after the few minutes of screen time that they had. So yeah, but Rize, like she was going crazy, man. And then they were starting to fight, and Denji, he had a moment was like, bro, like why is every single attractive woman trying to take me out, man? Y'all mess with me for me. when he was expressing that, see, or the thunder that's happening in the background agrees with me as well. Like I'm saying, bro, yo webcam, webcam, bro. But I don't know if the microphone picked up the thunder, but yeah, man. So the fight was just so fire, especially going back to the scores that I was messing with at a heavy level with they brought back one of the chainsaw ending songs. I think was it the third one or the second one? I think it was like the third or second one, where it's like when I heard it, I was like, hold up, are we going to get like an extended version of it? That's what I thought at first. I was like, yeah, because I've been wanting an extended version of that song for like a long time, especially since I first heard the song. Because when you listen to it like within the show, it feels like such it was like a very quick switch up into the second half, where it's like I feel like it was supposed to be like a gradual, like maybe they just shortened it for like the anime. That's what I thought for a long time, but there was never a full version of it, so I was like, oh well, okay. But hearing it again in the movies before they went through the whole thing, at first I was thinking, oh wait, are they gonna were they saving the full version of this for the movie? No, it was just how it already came out as. But it was so cool. It was so cool. It was so cool. And then the soundtrack's following after, especially when at this point Denji, the shark dude wait, what was his name actually? It started with the letter B, right? Beam? What's his name? Beam? Yeah, I think his name was Beam. When they were going through building to building, fighting Reze, bro, seeing the animation that they were doing for Reze, especially when they were both in the building together, Denji and Reze, and when she was fighting him and using consecutive like bomb attacks, but the impact frames of those explosions, them being inside the explosion at some point, and repeatedly like punching them. I was like, yo, seeing the impact frames, I was like, yo, this guy. Like, if I was watching this on stream, I'll be jumping out of my seat, but I have to have some decorum out in public. So nah, I can't do it like that. Can't do that. But yeah, the score around that time was like that soundtrack was yes. I need to look up this soundtrack of the whole movie, man. But yeah. So when we're talking about like the action bits, it was fun, man. But let's go back to what I was saying in the beginning of this video, how there were like different parallels of different scenes, it was crazy, man, because they tackled something and a few other things. When we talk about specific characters like Aki and the Angel Devil, are just like the themes of different people that's coming to grips with death or from coming to grips with it or seeking it in a certain sense. Aki and the Angel Devil, they were like two sides of the same coin. Like it was expressed in two different ways. Like especially later on in the movie, you start to see it expressed. But then also in the movie, you were introduced to, but at this point, to the parts of the movie that I have explained so far. Other things that they had explored was when Reze asked Denji, do you want to be a city mouse or a country mouse? Denji said, I want to be a city mouse, because that's all up to now, that's all he's known, right? And for Reze was like, well, a country mouse is much more, to be a country mouse is much more peaceful. Like it's much more peaceful. And it went from that conversation bridging over to Aki and the Angel Devil, where the Angel Devil was talking about like, nah, man, I'm a country mouse through and through. I love the peaceful life. That was my life. And it was kind of taken away from him, from Makima capturing him. And when Aki and the Angel had talked about how Aki he has about almost up to about 5 years left of his life, and I think that came from a conversation between Aki and his close friend, when his close friend was like, hey yo, once I'm like up there in 5 years, you gotta pull up, bro. And Aki was like, oh, for sure. But then the Angel was like, you don't even have that long, bro. You don't even have to that long. But then the Angel Devil was saying, you're lucky, man. I would much rather just like leave, and not be able to do any work. Like bro was like, throughout the movie, the Angel Devil was basically within the premise of the Angel Devil would rather die than like work hard. but we got to see more so the reason why he was saying that. So when the country mouse and the city mouse concepts were being put into play later on in the movie, that got reinforced into Angel's later conversations with Aki, because at this point, these two guys don't like each other at all. And then, Aki had expressed that to Makima in the flashback, just saying like, yo, I don't like messing with devils. But then the angel devil don't like messing with humans, because bro was like, I want humans to suffer when it's their time to go. I was like, sheesh. Two sides of the same coin right there already. But when they were in the car together, when they were just talking, Aki started to understand more and more of where the angel devil was coming from. And when the angel devil was just talking about how much it didn't want to be put within the city, bro was like, if there's a chance for me to go, I would basically take it. I was like, dang, you know what I mean? Like he would rather die than to move in a way that goes against who he is in a sense, right? I was like, dang, yeah, man, wow, right? And then later on in the movie, the fights are happening, and while the fight's happening, the collateral damage is crazy, higher pressure is trying to push people away, and Aki was holding Angel because the air pressure was just so crazy where, like, if you're caught within the wind and you're in the air, like, you're gonna get hit by something, you might get got. So Aki was holding them together, like, and Angel was like, bruh, it's okay, bro, like, it's okay, and at this point in the movie, we were already saying, oh, Aki don't mess with so, and they already kind of had like agreement of like, nah, it's about that time. But Aki, we saw, and it made me go back into season 1 where he really doesn't like seeing people he worked with get killed because of the girl he was homies with back in the first season. And now that I'm talking about it, there was also a scene in the movie where he showed like the cigarette like box where he put that in the trash that was to resemble her. I was like, oh shoot, okay, they're like bringing just reminding us like, yeah, yeah, that whole scene was so kind of emotional, dog. I was expecting like things to get emotional at that moment. But like, nah, like, and Aki was expressing, because Angel told Aki to let go, and within that moment he did. And so Angel closed his eyes, was almost like going into like a blissful like expression as we're tuning into the flashback, but it's pulled away because Aki grabbed hold of Angel's hand again, and he was like, no, I'd rather die than let someone else die. Like it's sick and tired seeing people close to him get killed. And then Angel's like, bro, why? So they finally started to really bond after that moment. I was like, dang, bro, okay. And yeah, so the fight continues between Reze and Makima, and not Makima, Reze and Denji. And Reze was telling Denji, like, man, you're able to do a lot more stuff with your abilities. Like, for real. Like, you can really do a whole lot more than what you've been doing. And then that fact, I guess, just struck a chord with Denji, because when he was talking to Shark, they were bouncing like energy. They were bouncing like the high energy with each other, and you're like, wait, I can do this. I can make my chin like, whoo. And Shark was like, yeah. Yo, Shark was like the craziest hype man in the movie, bro. He was the craziest hype man in the freaking movie. And then they went along with it. And then later on, where it's basically a one-on-one between Reze and Denji. This man Denji, he's able to use the just the chain of the chainsaw to kind of have it surround Reze's surroundings while she's trying to like shoot from afar. Denji able to close the distance, grab her, and we go into another parallel scene. And I'm not sure if I explained this, but earlier when I had talked about where I mentioned where Reze asks Denji, would you rather be a city mouse or a country mouse? During that scene, I'm not sure if it was before or after, but within that that act part of that movie, they had like a scene where they're over at the pool, and they had imagery of like them just like they vibing, and they had a similar scene as when they're fighting now to the death. They go into the ocean again. Denji brought her back, and then she's part of the ops. She's the because Reze, she's the bomb devil. She's with the gun devil and all these other people, right? And she kind of broke things down to Denji, like, look, what I was doing before, it was all an act, but there are other inklings that Denji was like, you can't really call this fake because you did teach me some stuff which was real, and I used it. That's how you're alive right now. And yeah, Reze went back to hug Denji before she ran off to kind of show you had some feelings. Don't be capping now. You had some feelings. You definitely had some feelings, and she still knocked Denji down so he wouldn't actually go with Rize because Denji offered her the same proposal that she offered him. Would you let you run away? Run away from your group, your people, and I can run away from my group and my people. She was like, nah. So it was like, dang, bro. So that was another parallel. And then later in the movie, the guy towards the last few episodes of season 1 of Chainsaw Man, the same guy that was basically like training with Power and Denji. He has like this nonchalant like attitude about him, and he's always like smoking something. And he shared a story with Aki about how children during like Soviet Union or whatever war they were used, experimented on at this room, at this door, and he basically breaks that story off as Rize was one of those people. For me, when he was explaining that, and after the Makima Rize scene of like Rize went back to meet up with Denji. Throughout the whole scene, she got herself a flower, a reflection to what was going on with Denji, and he got himself a flower. Went over to the cafe because Denji, when he saw her run off, told her, "Hey, I'll be at the cafe. I'm gonna wait for you." She took him on. She took him up on that offer. Went back. Makima was like, "Oh, word." And that's kind of where that goes. But I don't know. It was like the beginning of the movie where Denji was running over to this door in this alleyway, and Pachida, I think that's how you pronounce his name. My apologies if I'm butchering his name. Told Denji, "Don't go near that door." I viewed that door now with this context of like this door was almost a way to resemble the story that that guy that I mentioned that was smoking a cigarette talking to Aki was a representation of what the guy was saying as far as kids were being used as tools, being used and experimented on, being treated as like a tool, right? It was almost as though the chainsaw was telling Denji, don't open this door, in a sense of don't allow yourself to be this tool. That's how I bridged that, and then I got more so into that way of thinking, especially with seeing how the scene between Makima and Rize ended, where Rize stared off because she don't have like a lot of time left. She got impaled, and the last thing that she does, she stares at Denji over at the cafe, actually waiting for her, and she's just like, dang. She was sitting there just like, dang, why, man, why? But as the scene ends, the camera it like pans out in this huge tunnel where it makes me feel like past that it was like that door. It's that door. That's where that door was. And when she passed, Makima had explained her being a country mouse, she just wasn't for this world, like this side of the world. And yeah, it was crazy. It was like, dang, wow. And yeah, in a way, I viewed some of that as a parallel to the beginning of the movie with Denji going to the door. And I was sitting there, I was like, wow, bro, there was just so many parallels. But yeah, between Aki and the Angel Devil, just that whole scene was just crazy because the Angel Devil, that's also Country Mouse, is being used by someone that's of the city, Makima. A city like a country mouse forced to be a city mouse, having to kill a fellow country mouse. And Makima told the Angel Devil, like, why didn't you bring Aki? You were supposed to bring Aki. But Makima was like, actually, you're actually a nice person because you didn't want Aki to be the one to have done that to her. And it was just like, and then it was almost like, yeah, no, yeah, that's it. And overall, it was just crazy just seeing like, dang, this character, like this devil's being used too, like and it's all at the expense of that person's like happiness and all that stuff. And it almost felt like the chainsaw in the beginning of the movie was trying to warn Denji to not be that way as well. But regardless, Denji still, and actually Denji listened to the chainsaw in a way. He tried, but outside forces like Makima robbed him of that choice. And now, yeah, so it's just like tough. It's like, dang. And then a person over at the cafe that was there when Rize and Denji were at. He told Denji, like, look, you'll find someone perfect fit for you someday, bro. I was sitting there, I was like, he kind of found that, he kind of did. So it's like, dang, bro. But yeah, overall, the storytelling, it was, man, it was something else. Because when it's one of those movies where the further it go, it like travels, the more layers that stack on top of each other, the more complex it gets, etc., etc. Overall, fire. Will I give this movie out of 10? I mean, I genuinely can't find anything wrong with it. I mean, it told the story that it was meant to. I mean, as a viewer, I'm like, bro, you should have, like, these characters should have done this and done that. But I don't think that should allow your rating to be affected dramatically of like, oh, that's why the movie's bad. This character need to do this. No, no, no. That's what the movie's supposed to do. It's supposed to make you be like, yo, this character was stupid, bro. That's not a flaw of a movie. That's never really a flaw of a movie. The movie is supposed to make you be like, bro, why didn't you pick Reze, bro? Why you keep picking Makima? So yeah, if I had allowed that to affect me, I probably would have given this movie an 8. But I feel like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. I think that's a very fair rating. The animation was the animation in this movie, it just showed how much of a league that it is on its own, man. How much more of is within a league of its own, and I feel like I missed certain things or just certain explanations to certain themes of how I was just trying to connect certain things together. I feel like I didn't do a bad job per se, but I feel like if I were to rewatch this movie again, things would make a bit more sense. But yeah, man, overall fire movie. This is my review, 30 minutes long. Goodness. Mitchell Rehab Street is in session, but we're actually out of session now. We're about to wrap this up. Thank you guys for, checking into this review, if you guys, you're interested in watching a movie, I definitely would suggest to check this movie out. It's also with Studio Mappa, they're working on so many projects. So, but for us as viewers, sometimes we may think, dang, what's taking so long with this? What's taking so long with that? But looking at how much like passion and just love that was put into this movie, when you see certain fight scenes, it's almost like you can almost like tell, like, man, it's just a passion project for all these artists, man. Just seeing how much they poured into this, like, yeah. But yeah, no, I definitely would recommend to check this movie out. Fire. So, but I'm gonna head on out. Leave y'all to it. Mike Mr. Peace.